Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Harakah Kadash. The one is to the apostles and elders, great most on it rule well, and Shalom to all the brothers doing the work considering truth. Yeah. So with this, this Ukraine, Russia situation, you had Putin basically enact martial law over the areas that got annexed like like a week ago now, about, and that kind of speaks to the spirit of Russia, essentially, and how they're how they can be compared against the West, where these guys are obviously mainly because Putin's over there pushing the vibration out, getting into that raw old school mindset where they're like, they're essentially that raw old school mindset where they're what they're looking for. They're looking to just move in that more raw sense and less worried about images presentation, essentially. So I read this on AP News. It says, what Putin tightens grip on Ukraine and Russia with martial law. It says Russian President Vladimir Putin declared martial law Wednesday in 4 regions of Ukraine that Moscow annexed, and gave all regional governors in Russia emergency powers that open a door for sweeping the restrictions throughout the country. Putin didn't immediately spell out the steps that would be taken under martial law, but said his order was effective starting Thursday. So it's like even what that in particular entails, it's up in the air. But as far as these Russians move, and they're they're less invested in trying to in having to keep up appearances like America is. So these guys will just move completely in a completely fucked manner. Regional governors sweeping restrictions. Okay. But said his order was effective starting Thursday. His decree gave law enforcement agencies 3 days to submit specific proposals and orders the creation of territorial defense forces in the annexed regions. The upper house of Russia's parliament quickly endorsed Putin's decision to impose martial law in the annexed Donetsk, Kherson, Luhansk, and Zaporizhzhia regions. The approved legislation indicated the declaration may involve restrictions on travel and public gatherings, tighter censorship, and broader authority for law enforcement agencies. Yeah. So I think they're just gonna switch up how they roll. And I think they said like a lot of these areas are meant to have been reclaimed by Ukraine. And funny enough, I think Russia was moving out of them before they annexed them, because they were shifting they're meant to be shifting where they're making their offensive. So I don't know to what extent I don't know how it's gonna break down basically. So but hey, we'll see. And it's like more likely than not you're gonna see some bloody conflict. That's the main thing. Unfortunately, it says that we're working to solve very difficult large-scale tasks to ensure Russia's security and safe future, to protect our people, Putin said in televised remarks at the start of a Security Council meeting. Those who are on the front lines or undergoing training at firing ranges and training centers could feel our support and know that they have our big great country and unified people behind their back. Yeah, it's funny because you've seen like, well, these men did what do they call it? Well, it's like a draft. Well, it wasn't even like a draft because I think it was reserve soldiers getting called. Mobilization. Yeah, mobilization there is. So it says, on Saturday, Russian Defense Ministry said 2 men fired at soldiers on a military firing range near Ukraine, killing 11 and wounding 15. The ministry said 2 men from an unnamed former Soviet republic fired on volunteer soldiers during target practice before they were killed by return fire. Putin didn't provide details of the extra powers the heads of the Russian regions will have under his decree. However, the order states that measures envisioned by martial law could be introduced anywhere in Russia when necessary. Yeah. So that's the other thing I was thinking, because there's been a few incidents where they said it's like apparently the law for the punishment for not being mobilized in the military was harsher than the punishment for like killing your officer. So hella people would just that's why there've been so many people just looking to kill the officer and just go to jail or some shit. And it's saying people have been trying to run to Georgia as well, like over the border to Georgia. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how to what extent it really pops off. Because as far as it seems now, Ukraine's kind of main way the way they're staying in the game is what, that foreign aid, that foreign support. But it's like to what extent, so how long is that gonna work? And then they made the application for was it for the EU or for NATO? No, I think it was for NATO. But I think in NATO, like I think in NATO's rules it basically says you can't join NATO if you're currently at war. Anyway, you've been at war for like a certain amount of recent time, because obviously it would then just mean every nation has to jump in and get busy. Shut up, I don't think anyone wants to do, especially with the fucking the fuel crisis as is. Europe ain't really going to be looking to jump in on that. But, wait and see. Says according to the Russian legislation, martial law could require banning public gatherings, including travel bans and curfews, and conducting censorship, among other restrictions. So yeah, that's also, I think it's just going to get greasy for them, man. And I think this will be resisted in Ukraine, but or as to what extent can they actually resist? But that's that's because of how the spirit's been put on these Russians for them to move. These guys are moving with no regard, man, no regard. So I said, what Putin last month ordered a mobilization of army reservists, prompting hundreds of thousands of men to flee Russia. The Russian leader on Wednesday also ordered the establishment of a coordination committee to increase interaction between government agencies in dealing with the fight in Ukraine, which Putin continues to call a special military operation. Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin, who was named to lead the committee, said it would focus on boosting supplies of weapons and military equipment, conducting construction work, and facilitating transportation. In Russian regions bordering Ukraine, authorities plan to tighten security at key facilities and conduct checks of motorists, among other measures. So yeah, They're trying to tighten the grip, and and that martial law, like they said, that can be spread to man's on the it's kind of crazy, man. Everyone's, because even Zelensky's done the same thing. This nigga sits in his office on live streams non-stop, and that's like how shit runs in the current age. Funny as hell. I was gonna say something. That slipped my mind. So Isaiah 13, start from 14. It says, "And it shall be as a chase roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword." So yeah, among these the hell they called? Among these these in the land of Babylon, these Americans, you're gonna have, well, all in the main regions where Esau holds sway. Europe and Russia. You can have even Russia. So like Europe and America. You can have a lot of these Jakes basically I say Jakes just in general. People be like, yo, as things intensify, they're just gonna look to Scarpa. They're gonna look to get the fuck out of there. So everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined onto them shall fall by the sword. Because yeah, them being in bed with that American system it'll be to your downfall. And it says, "Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes, their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished." And that's something that over there in Ukraine, that's being experienced, and it's something that's gonna spread. That's something that when it comes, it touches on the US, touches on Europe, then it's gonna be the same intensity. It says, "What, behold, I'll stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it." Yeah, as far as these Medes, because they had that spirit put on them, it's not something where they're looking, okay, for some form of tribute. They're basically just looking like, yo, you know, they ain't looking for tribute. They're just looking like to get busy, man, because they're gonna be putting that raw mindset. It's like those the young men that've been in the meat grind of this Ukraine. They're gonna have that they're gonna have that different mindset from when they've been seeing they've had to be blazing guys' brains away. They've been seeing all kind of messed up shit. They're gonna be in a different kind of spirit. Whereas over here, there's that dissonance, there's that block. They ain't been dealing with it. It's like you would have had the people that been to Iraq, been to Afghanistan for periods of time, but then even then it's not been as messy as like a situation like Ukraine. So that rawness, that that kind of mindset's not going to be as present. It says, "Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children." Yeah, so they're just going to be moving, completely wild. It says, "What, in Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the childish excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah." Yeah, and that's going to be the result when basically that weapon, that nation has been utilized for a certain purpose, and it's going to be used to what? To turn these different. It's going to be used to turn these different nations. It's going to be used to turn these different nations over against the US as well. But yeah, Jeremiah 50:1, and a word that the Lord Yahweh spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. Declare ye among the nations and publish. Set up your standard, publish and conceal not. Say, Babylon is taken, Bel is confounded, Merodach is broken in pieces. Her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces. And yeah, just as the ancient Babylon had their idols confounded, so too will, the new Babylon, America, basically have their idols being confounded, man. All that they established is basically being torn apart. It's funny, you had that whole season when like the BLM was going around, where you had people going around ripping down statues. Yeah, people going around, tearing down statues. Those statues are part of the establishment of Esau's power, of how he presents himself, of him essentially, putting himself on a so-called great level, and then it's, people have them as like cultural benchmarks. Like, they always say, well, you have the big fuck off Abraham Lincoln, man. In where is it? I think it's DC. Where that's at. I can't even remember, man. I only know that shit from movies. But, as far as and then Mount Rushmore and whatnot, where you have the faces carved into the side, and what these things are, that's part. Those are the new idols for the new Babylon, man. That's part of how they build their so-called prestige. Part of how they build that whole angle. So it's like what people are they buy into that what's not the effect, the idea, man, that mindset. So it says, for out of the north there cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast. And yeah, once America really gets moved to that land in the north, it's going to be them Russians primarily. And the tool, the means by which they're gonna have, the land made desolate is what? The missiles, man. That waster. Those tools that have been crafted by Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Giving inspiration to the men to put these things together. Why? So that you can have that third world war, you can have that nuclear conflict, which will culminate in what? Missiles flying. And then what? Babylon ain't gonna be dwelled in, man. It's gonna be the fire, then it's gonna be the smoke, then it's gonna be a desert. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Shalom.